The first time I blacked out was in gym class. 1 second I was running laps. Next I was on the floor with a crowd of faces staring down at me. Someone yelled my name. Someone else called for the nurse. My legs wouldn't move. My fingers felt like jelly. My heart pounded like it was running from something I couldn't see. It kept happening after that, not every day, but often enough that I started to live in fear of the next collapse. Doctors ran tests, blood work, scans, more tests. Weeks passed in a fog of white rooms and quiet hallways, then came the diagnosis: autoimmune disorder, chronic fatigue, muscle inflammation, unpredictable, lifelong. The doctor spoke gently, like he was handing me a fragile truth. But when he finished, I looked at my mom. She rolled her eyes. "I told you," she muttered. "He's just lazy." The ride home was silent. Dad's fingers tapped the steering wheel the entire time. At dinner that night, he finally spoke. "So now, you're sick." That's what they said. He stared at his plate. "I worked through migraines. Your mom ran a business with pneumonia. You want to tell me fatigue means you quit life?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. I wasn't asking to quit. I was asking not to collapse on the kitchen floor while trying to help unload groceries. The final straw came. 2 weeks later, I passed out in the school hallway. Again, spent the night in the ER again. When I got home, my suitcase was already by the door. Mom sat on the couch, arms folded, face tight. "You need to leave," she said flatly. I blinked. "What? You're 17? Almost 18? Can't do this anymore? I'm sick." "You're exhausting," she corrected. Dad walked in, nodded toward the suitcase. "We're not saying don't get help, just not here. We've done what we could." My voice cracked. "I'm your son," he sighed, "and we're your parents, not your caretakers." I packed slowly. Not because I had a lot to take, just because I didn't want to believe this was real. Noah stood in the doorway, 14 years old, hoodie sleeves past his wrists. Eyes locked on mine. He didn't say anything, but he didn't look away either. I zipped up the bag and stood. "Guess that's it," I whispered. Still nothing. But as I passed him, he grabbed my wrist for just a second, tight like he was trying to hold something that couldn't be held. Then he let go. I stepped out into the cold with a backpack, duffel, and no idea where to go. No one stopped me. No one called me back. And for the first time in my life, I understood what being disposable felt like. Zane didn't ask too many questions when I showed up on his doorstep with a duffel bag and a busted phone charger. "Basement's free," he shrugged. "It's cold, though. Bring your own guilt." I laughed, but it sounded hollow in my throat. His mom was never home. His older brother was always yelling into a headset upstairs. No one really noticed me down there. The couch creaked. Air. It smelled like dust and old detergent, but it was better than sleeping outside. Barely. I stayed quiet, out of the way. Zane gave me space, tossed down leftovers. He never talked about why I was there. He knew, but we pretended not to. Days started, bleeding into each other. Wake up, try to eat, get dizzy, lie back down. Some mornings I felt okay. Most I didn't. I kept the lights off to avoid headaches. My legs ached constantly. Sometimes I couldn't lift my arms for more than a few minutes. There was no plan, no path forward, just time, stretching, and the weight of feeling like the world had moved on without me. After 2 weeks, Zane knocked. "Hey," he said carefully. "My landlord's freaking out. Says to many people on the lease." I knew what that meant. "I'll go," I said. "You don't have to." "I do." He nodded, guilt all over his face. "I'm sorry, man. Don't be. You helped." We didn't hug. We weren't those kinds of friends. But when I left, he shoved a granola bar in my hoodie pocket and muttered, "Don't die." I almost smiled. I spent that night in a 24-hour diner, nursing a coffee I couldn't finish. My stomach couldn't handle much. My hands were shaking from the cold, and maybe from something else, maybe from everything. I kept thinking about Noah, what he was doing, if he even missed me. I hadn't heard from him, not even a text. But I didn't blame him. He was still just a kid, caught in the middle. Was probably told to stay out of it. That thought hurt more than anything. The next day, I walked to the old library, one of the few places that didn't cost anything. I curled into a corner behind the travel books and closed my eyes. I woke up to a rustling sound. A librarian stared down at me. "You can't sleep here," she said, not unkindly. I nodded and stood, and that's when I saw it. The package. Sitting on the floor next to my duffel, no return address, no handwriting I recognized. Inside was a soft, dark hoodie, a bag of trail mix, a bottle of water, and a small black notebook. I opened it slowly. The first page had one sentence in shaky handwriting: "You are not invisible. Keep going." And I stared at that letter like it had opened a hole in my chest. Noah. It had to be him. Who else signed things with just N? I flipped through the notebook, blank pages, waiting for something. I didn't cry, not then. But I did. Pull on the HOODIE. It smelled like laundry detergent and safety. I stayed in the library until they closed. Then I found a bus shelter to curl under. That night was colder than usual. But I kept my hand on the notebook, not to write in it, just to know it was there. Proof that someone still saw me. Someone still cared, even if he had to care in secret. Asterisk, the bridge wasn't beautiful like in the movies. It stank of wet metal and old beer. Pigeons screamed from the girders above. I curled under a slab of concrete with my bag as a pillow, the gifted hoodie soaked through. I hadn't eaten in a day. My hands were trembling again. This time it wasn't the illness, it was everything. I thought about walking into traffic, not because I wanted to die, because I was just tired of trying to live like this. But I didn't. I just sat there. By the second night, the rain came down hard. I had no umbrella. My body shook uncontrollably. Every joint screamed. My breath felt shallow, like I was breathing through a straw. I tried to stand, and that's when my legs gave out. I hit the ground with a thud that didn't even hurt. It just felt distant, like I wasn't in my own body anymore. My vision went white at the edges, then black. I don't remember the dog's bark. I don't remember the man's face. I just remember the cold of the ambulance gurney and a woman yelling, "He's hypothermic." He's crashing, and then silence. Again, I woke up in a fluorescent haze. My throat was dry. My hands were warm. Someone had placed heat packs under my arms. A voice nearby whispered, "He could have died if they found him an hour later." I blinked hard. The nurse looked at me and smiled kindly. "You're safe now," she said. Safe. What a strange word. They kept me for 2 days, hooked me up to IVs, ran tests, fed me soft foods, and asked careful questions. I answered the basics, avoided the rest. When I finally checked my phone, the cracked screen still somehow alive, I saw one new text. It was from an unknown number. "There's a room waiting. Come." My hands shook more reading that than they ever did from. My illness, Noah. He had to use a different number. Probably didn't want mom or dad to see. Maybe he stole a friend's phone. Maybe he bought a burner just to find me. The point was he was reaching out. Again, I texted back, "Where?" Reply came fast. "Don't worry, I'll find you." I didn't cry because I was scared. I cried because for the first time in weeks, maybe months, I felt seen, not as a patient, not as a mistake, but as a brother. The garage still smelled like motor oil and cat pee. I hadn't seen the place since I was 10. When Mrs. Penner used to babysit us with old cookies and dusty VHS tapes. Now, her garage was Noah's secret and mine. "Up there," he whispered, motioning to the rickety pull-down ladder. I cleared it out. Mostly I hesitated, weak and lightheaded. No one noticed. He grabbed my bag. "I'll take it. You just climb. Slow." I swallowed my pride, nodded, and took the first step. The loft was small, barely enough space to stretch out fully, but it had a mattress, a warm blanket, a lamp that buzzed softly, and a small crate that held granola bars and apple juice boxes. "You did this," I asked. Noah shrugged like it wasn't a big deal. Been working on it for weeks? Just hoping you'd come? There was a lump in my throat I couldn't swallow. I can't stay here forever, I muttered. You don't have to, he met my eyes. But you don't have to sleep under bridges either. He explained everything while sitting cross-legged. On the floor, Mrs. Penner was in Florida until spring. The garage was hers, but she didn't use the loft anymore. Noah had cleaned it up whenever our parents thought he was at the library. He stashed snacks, blankets, even a portable charger. You've been planning this, I said. Since the night they kicked you out, he replied quietly. That night echoed in my head again. Mom's cold voice, Dad's dismissive stare, the plastic bag of my things by the door, and Noah, standing behind the banister. Eyes wide and silent, the days blurred, but in a better way now. Noah brought food after school, sandwiches, leftover pasta, sometimes warm soup in a thermos. He told our parents he was staying late for robotics or track. I didn't ask too many questions, didn't want to make it harder for him. Spent my time reading books he borrowed from the school library, scribbling in a notebook he brought. Me and just sleeping. For the first time in a long time, I was warm. For the first time, I didn't feel like dying. One evening, he showed up with a second-hand Bluetooth speaker. Found it at a thrift store, he said. Figured you could use some music. Stared at him, this kid. I used to tease for eating cereal with orange juice when we ran out of milk. He was 13, barely more than a child, but here he was, braver than anyone I knew. You okay, Noah? I asked. He paused. I miss you too. We didn't say more. We just sat there while the speaker played some lo-fi beat, the kind that makes the silence feel full instead of empty. He never said anything bad about Mom or Dad, but sometimes, when he'd leave, I'd see it in the way he lingered, like he hated walking back into that house alone. You don't have to protect them. I told him once. He just said, I'm not. I'm protecting you. One night I woke up to footsteps on the garage stairs. I froze. Then the loft hatch creaked open. It was Noah. His face was pale. What happened? I asked. He pulled himself up and shut the hatch behind him. You found your hospital bill? Dad's been yelling all night. I sat up slowly. Did he hit you? No, just shouted, called you names. I clenched my fists. I'm sorry you have to deal with that, I whispered. He looked up at me. It's not your fault. That night, he fell asleep on the floor next to the mattress. I watched him curled up, hoodie pulled over his head, and I promised myself one thing. I would not let him become like them. Asterisk, the first sentence I wrote in the journal was, I don't know who I am without their disappointment echoing in my head. It wasn't a pretty line, but it was honest. Noah had left the notebook for me weeks ago, tucked under a pack of crackers. I hadn't touched it until tonight. I wasn't scared of the blank pages. I was scared of what I'd put on them. Day by day, I wrote more. Not about the sickness, not directly. I wrote about the way the rain felt when I was under that bridge. About the time Mom slammed my bedroom door and didn't open it for 2 days. About the way Noah smiled when he brought peanut butter crackers, pretending they were a feast. And then I started writing poetry. Bad at first, then. Less bad. I didn't read them aloud. Just scribbled lines like, hope doesn't knock. It sneaks. And under garage doors, it felt good. Like I was talking to myself in a way I hadn't in years. Noah noticed the change before I did. You're humming, he said one night, raising an eyebrow while handing me a grilled cheese. I am. He nodded, grinning. You only used to hum when you were drawing comics as a kid? That hit me like a soft punch in the chest. I'd forgotten I used to draw. Forgotten. I used to sing under my breath. Forgotten I even liked music. I borrowed his phone when he left it charging and started searching things, remote jobs, freelance work, teaching English online, survey sites, anything. Most of them were scams or required degrees. Didn't have. But one site seemed real. It needed a decent voice, patience, and a quiet place to record lessons. I had all 3 now. It took me 2 tries to pass the trial. Video. The third one I recorded at 2 a.m., whispering softly into the mic Noah lent me from school. Repeat after me. The cat is on the table. It's ridiculous. Embarrassing. But when the acceptance email came through, I almost dropped the phone. My first student was a kid from Thailand named Precha. He called me Teacher Matt, even though I never gave him my name. I taught him how to say good morning and thank you with confidence. He taught me what it felt like to matter again. My first paycheck was $80. When it hit my account, I just stared at the screen. My hand was shaking again, but not from my illness, from pride. I had made money on my own, without Dad yelling, without Mom's judging silence, just me. That night, I stayed up and wrote a poem, a real one that felt stitched together from every broken piece I'd picked up since I left home. I printed it on a scrap of notebook paper, folded it, tucked it under Noah's pillow when he came. To visit the next evening, I didn't say anything about it, didn't need to. The next day, he showed up with tears in his eyes and a fistful of candy. Was that from you? He whispered. I nodded, embarrassed. He handed me a Snickers bar and said, I'm going to keep that forever. I smiled, for real this time. It wasn't a survival smile, it was a maybe I'm healing smile. Asterisk, I knew something was wrong the second. I heard the garage door slam shut. Noah froze, halfway up the ladder with a paper bag clutched in his hand. His eyes widened. He didn't say a word, but the footsteps below said plenty. No way. Mom's voice cracked like a whip, sharp, shaking, cold. She was standing in the doorway to the garage. A flashlight in one hand, her phone in the other. Noah turned to me, mouth open. Then he looked down at her and said, It's not what you think. She stepped forward. You've been sneaking food out of the house? Lying to us? Her flashlight hit my face. Her breath caught. Just for a second. You, she stammered. You're here? I didn't move. I didn't flinch. Yes, I said quietly. She blinked, then turned to Noah. You've been hiding him? Helping him? Noah didn't answer, so she turned her fury to me, still manipulating, still leeching. You always find a way to crawl back, don't you? I didn't crawl, I said. He helped me stand. By the time Dad came down the driveway, the air was already thick with tension. He looked from Mom to Noah, then up at me, and just like before, his expression didn't change. Disappointment, disgust. That was his default. I should have known. He muttered, You've always been a problem. Getting sick was just your latest excuse. I didn't reply. I didn't defend myself. There was nothing I could say they'd ever hear. Noah spoke instead. He almost died. Snapped. Do you even know that? He was in the hospital. You didn't ask. You didn't care. Mom grabbed his arm. Don't talk to us like that. You don't treat him like this, Noah shouted, yanking his arm back. She went quiet then. Only for a second. Then she looked up at me and sneered. You turned him against us. I shook my head. I didn't turn him. You pushed him. I climbed down the ladder slowly. Noah tried to hand me the bag of food. I didn't take it. I looked them both in the eyes. The people who raised me, fed me, gave me their last name, and I said, You don't have to throw me out again. I pointed toward the dark road behind them. I'm already gone, Noah's voice cracked. I'm coming with you. No, I said immediately. What? He blinked. You can't be serious. You have school? You have a bed. Future? I don't want it if it means leaving you here, he said, his voice shaking. I stepped forward, gripped his shoulders. You've already saved me once, Noah. Please, don't burn your life for me. He started to cry. Real. Shaking sobs, the kind that twist your chest from the inside. Please, he whispered. Please don't make me stay with them. I hugged him hard, my little brother. The only light left in a house full of cold. I'm not making you stay, I said gently. I'm asking you to finish your race, so one day you can choose your life. Dad scoffed. This is pathetic. Mom added, You think you're noble now? I looked over my shoulder as I walked past them. "No," I said. "I just finally know who I am." I left the bag of food on the hood of their car. Then I walked into the night again. Noah didn't say goodbye. He just stood under the porch light, arms crossed, jaw clenched. But when I glanced back one last time, he nodded. It was small, but I saw it, and that nod carried me through the darkness like a torch. The shelter smelled like old soap and colder memories. I didn't expect warmth, just a bed that didn't tilt like a car seat or creak like floorboards. That night, wrapped in a secondhand blanket, I didn't sleep much. But for the first time, I wasn't afraid of being found, only forgotten. A week later, I was placed in a shared house for people like me, people with nowhere else to go, no one fighting for them. That's where I met Malik. He was in the kitchen, blasting old-school hip-hop and mixing instant noodles. With peanut butter, like it was gourmet. "You're the new guy?" he asked, not looking up. "Yeah, I just moved in." He pointed with his spoon. "Room 3 leaks. Don't put your mattress against the back wall." Smiled for the first time in days. "Thanks." He raised an eyebrow. "You freelance, huh? Right? Edit, translate, something digital?" I shook my head. "I used to tutor. English." Mostly he grinned. "Perfect. Sit down. I'll show you something that doesn't require resumes or begging." That night, Malik showed me websites, client portals, gigs. He helped me set up profiles and told me what not to say, never say. "You're desperate," he warned. "Say you're motivated." He was smart, sharp, and didn't flinch when I told him about my condition. He just shrugged. Man, we're all carrying something. Sandra, the house caseworker, was the opposite. Soft-spoken, kind eyes. Kind. "Who makes you believe paperwork might actually matter?" She helped me apply for disability benefits. Showed me how to request old medical files. Walked me through every line I didn't understand. "You deserve this," she said once, handing me a form. "Feels like cheating?" "No," she corrected. "It's survival. There's a difference." Slowly, life became less about staying alive and more about building something. I started tutoring kids in Brazil and Korea online, wrote blog posts, learned how to invoice. I made my first real paycheck from freelancing, $142.77. I stared at the numbers on the screen for a long time. I had made that. No permission, no apology, just me. One night, curled in bed with my old journal, I wrote a blog post called "Invisible Doesn't Mean Gone." It wasn't pretty or polished, just honest. I talked about being sick, about being kicked out, about sleeping under bridges and behind words I was too afraid to say aloud. But mostly I talked. About Noah the hoodie, the food, the hiding place. The world didn't believe in me, I typed. But he did, and sometimes that's enough. I hit publish and went to sleep. The next morning, my email exploded. Comments, shares, messages from strangers, people, saying they saw themselves in my story. One message said, "Thank you for surviving. You reminded me I could too." I stared at the screen, speechless. I hadn't written to be heard, but I had been. Malik slapped my shoulder. "You just went viral, my guy." Sandra printed the post and hung it on the board in her office. I didn't. Tell Noah? Not yet. But I saved a copy of the post in a folder named just for him. He'd find it someday. And when he did, I hoped he'd read the last line. "This life may not have started as mine, but now it belongs to me." Asterisk. I heard the knock before I saw him. It was soft. Taps. Hesitant. Like someone unsure if they'd be welcome. When I opened the door, there he was. Noah taller than I remembered. His hoodie hung looser, his shoulders broader. His voice cracked a little when he said, "Hey." I froze for a second. Then I let him in. We sat on the floor of my tiny room. No couch, just 2 old beanbags and the smell of microwave noodles from the night before. He handed me a black guitar case. I stared at it. My childhood guitar. The one I used to play when I couldn't sleep. The one Dad threatened to throw out if I didn't do something useful. I opened it slowly. The strings were dusty, but it was mine. "It's yours again," Noah said. I didn't say thank you. I couldn't. My throat was tight. We walked Through the park near my place, kicking dead leaves. How'd you find me? I asked. You think I wasn't checking your blog? He smirked. I've read every post. I blinked. Even the one about the hoodie. Especially that one. We sat on a bench. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded paper. College application, he said. To where? Michigan. New York? Far? I laughed. Running away? No, he said. Running toward something. He told me about school, how people whispered when I disappeared, how Dad still called me the ghost, how Mom pretended I never existed in public. Think you vanished, he said. They don't know you got stronger. I looked down. I didn't want to drag you into it. He shook his head. You didn't? You showed me how to stand? I raised an eyebrow. By getting kicked out? Oh, he said quietly. Not becoming bitter, by surviving. He ate cheap tacos from a food truck, shared a soda like we were kids again. I still hear you, he said suddenly. Hear me, in my head. Every time I want to quit something, I think, what would he do? Then I push harder. I didn't know what to say, so I said nothing. Sometimes silence holds more than words. At the train station, he hugged me before boarding. He held on longer than usual. Then he whispered, I never stopped calling you my brother. I gripped his shoulder. You were the only one who didn't. He stepped back. You ever need me? I know. I nodded. I'll knock twice. He smiled, then disappeared into the crowd. Back at my place, I sat with the guitar in my lap. I strummed. Gently. The sound was off, the tuning old, but it was mine again, like my life. Bit by bit, it was coming back to me. Asterisk. I found the notebook in a box under my bed. The one with bent edges and a faded sticker of some cartoon I used to like. I hadn't opened it in years. Didn't even remember keeping it. The first page was dated the night they threw me out. Dear Mom and Dad, you said I was too much. So I became nothing. I read it in silence. My breath slowed. My fingers gripped the page a little too tight. Every letter after that was worse to them. To God, to me. I didn't hold back when I wrote. Them I cursed, I begged, I threatened. I questioned why I was born, why being sick felt like being disposable, why love had conditions. I read every word, every version of myself that needed to scream quietly. I closed the notebook, walked out back to the shared fire pit behind the house. No one else was home. I struck a match. One at a time, I fed each letter to the flames. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just watched, not to forget, but to free myself. Every word was true. But I didn't need them anymore. I had survived them. That night I checked my blog inbox like I always did. Half spam, half silence. Except this time there was something else. Subject, we read your story and we believe in it. Clicked it. It was from an editor at a small indie publishing house. She said she found my blog through a friend. She said my post invisible doesn't mean gone. Stayed with her for days. Then she asked if I'd ever considered writing a book. I stared at the screen for a long time. My fingers hovered over the keys. I thought of my hospital nights, of Noah. Sneaking food through the window, of the guitar, the shelter, of the fire. I clicked reply. Let's talk. Later that night, I sat at my desk. The candle flickered beside me. Blank page. And then I typed the first line. They threw me out, but they couldn't keep me gone. The dining table wasn't fancy. Mismatched plates, foldable chairs, a lamp with a crooked shade that flickered when you sneezed too hard. But tonight, it felt like the warmest place on earth. Malik brought the curry. Sandra brought garlic bread that didn't match anything but smelled too good to care. Zane showed up with soda, chips, and a giant grin like we were back in high school in Noah. He brought the toast. To the man of the hour, Malik said, raising his glass, who proved that rock bottom is just a foundation. Everyone clinked. Glasses, mine, had orange soda. Fancy. I still can't believe it. Sandra smiled. A book deal, like a real one. Zane smirked. Told you your words hit hard, man. You've got that stab dash you dash in dash the dash heart dash and dash make dash you dash thank him kind of writing. I laughed. Is that a compliment? It's the highest kind? The food disappeared fast. Noah leaned back in his chair, chewing slowly, studying me the way he used to when I'd try to teach him guitar chords. You know, he said softly, you were never sick. I raised an eyebrow. Pretty sure my doctor would disagree. Shook his head. I mean, not sick in the way they said. You weren't weak. You were just carrying pain no one else wanted to see. Silence fell for a beat, and then he raised his glass again. To the brother who was never sick, just misunderstood. This time when we clinked glasses, I didn't say anything. I couldn't, because for the first time in my life, I felt seen. After dessert, Sandra helped clear the plates. Malik played soft music from his phone. Zayn told stories about his landlord, who believed birds were government spies. And Noah? He handed me a small wrapped box. What's this? Open it. I peeled the paper. Inside was a leather bookmark, hand-carved, simple, on it burned. In tiny, uneven letters, keep going. I looked at him. You wrote that note in the hoodie, didn't you? He smiled. Took you long enough. Later, when everyone left and the house was quiet again, I sat by the window with the bookmark in one hand and my laptop open in the other. Family doesn't always share your blood. Sometimes, they share your scars. Asterisk 6 months later, the book came out. I didn't throw a launch party, didn't post a countdown, just clicked publish and let the silence carry it into the world. It wasn't neat. It wasn't polished, but it was honest. It was mine, and it hurt to write. Zayn texted me 2 hours after release. Bro, you're trending. Page 3 on Memoirs to Watch. I smiled, but didn't reply. I wasn't in it for the noise. A few days later, Sandra messaged, your book made a client cry. In a good way. Then Malik called, excited. You're in the store, man. I saw it at the airport. Middle shelf. You made it. Made it. Nah, but maybe I was making it. One night Noah called. His voice was tight. Hesitant. I thought you should know. Yeah, I think Mom read it. I sat down and she told Dad it wasn't true. Said you exaggerated. Said you were always dramatic? Of course. Of course she did. I stared at the floor. Not sure if I felt anger or just fatigue, Noah continued. I told her it was all true. Every word. You didn't have to, I know. But I wanted to. Pause, she said. He always did make himself the victim, I laughed. But it wasn't a happy sound. She didn't deny it happened, I said. Just tried to reframe it. Yeah, you okay? I asked. I am now. I hung up and walked to the mirror. Same face, but not the same man. A week later, I was invited to a panel about resilience. I almost didn't go. What could I say to a room full of strangers that I hadn't already written in the book? But Malik nudged me. Your voice helped. People once, let it help again. So I went. On stage, the moderator asked, what was the hardest chapter to write? I didn't hesitate. The one where I get thrown out. Why? What? Because it wasn't just about losing a roof. It was about losing the illusion that love is unconditional. Murmurs filled the room. Another question. Do you still speak? To your parents? I shook my head. I don't need them to accept the story. They're not the ones who had to survive it. And that was it. I wasn't angry. Just ... Back home, I opened a fresh copy of my book. The final page stared back at me. I had rewritten it 10 times, debated the ending for weeks, but the last line never changed. This wasn't a revenge story, it was a survival one, and I survived. Not for applause, not for them. For me, I closed the book and placed it on the shelf, right between my old journal and the copy of Invisible Doesn't Mean Gone. 2 parts of the same journey, one that nearly ended on a bridge, and one that began with a hidden room above a garage. The door knocked. Noah, holding pizza, movie night? Yeah. Sat on the couch, mouths full, remote in hand, laughter echoing down the hall. No headlines, no speeches, just life. Simple, messy, hours.